Welcome back, everyone. It's me, Matt. I hope you're having a wonderful day and staying safe during these difficult times. We are talking about self-propelled anti-aircraft guns today. A rather peculiar-looking vehicle. Some of you may have not seen it or heard of it before. It is the T249 Vigilante, which is an American anti-aircraft gun. A kind of cool one, though, and the fact that this thing has a rotary gun on always gets people's mouths watering a little bit. We talk about rotary cannons, we think of the A10, everybody gets excited. So it's a pretty cool vehicle overall, but we need to talk a little bit about its, history before it got there. So by the late 1950s, the atomic age was in full swing with all sorts of interesting ideas taking root within the US Army. One of these ideas, partially logical at the time, but not exactly brilliant in hindsight, was the notion that anti-aircraft guns, both on the ground and on warplanes, were completely obsolete, and that guided missiles such as the Hawk or the Sidewinder would take care of just about every air threat you could think of. After all, American scientists were working on helping astronauts find their way into space. Surely that would be more complex than helping a missile to find its way onto a communist backside aircraft. You can probably see where this is going. The Americans were too optimistic about the capabilities of early missile systems, which led to a number of really bad decisions, mostly on the Air Force side, but eventually would spawn the abomination that was the F-104 Starfighter, one of the most lethal fighter jets in history, but only to its own pilots. On the ground side, though, as I mentioned before in other videos, there's many different vehicles that have been pushed through into these self-propelled anti-aircraft gun projects, including, yes, the twin-barreled 40mm Sergeant York vehicle, a very special vehicle to say the least. We are talking today, though, about the T249 with its massive 37mm gun, which was unfortunately a cancelled project, which, of course, I've been talking a lot about cancelled projects, but that always seems to be the case when we find such fascinating and really cool vehicles that could have come to play. Before we go any further today, though, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by Armored Warfare, a really cool, fast-paced action game that is involving, yes, of course, tanks and other infantry fighting vehicles, self-propelled guns, artillery, etc. Now, I have played this game a few times in the past. You can go check out the links in the description box below, and I may start playing it again in the future. I actually had a few games of it recently actually playing the vehicle we're talking about today, and the vehicle is sponsored by Armored Warfare in today's video. If you haven't played Armored Warfare before, I would strongly encourage you to give it a go. It's a fast-paced, free-to-play online tank game with hundreds of modern armored fighting vehicles from the 1950s to the near future, including the vehicle we're talking about today, the T249 Vigilante. The Vigilante is, however, one of the top-tier vehicles of the game, and in order to obtain it, you need to progress through the game. Armored Warfare right now is giving a special gift to everyone stuck at home during the current crisis and trying times. This gift contains several boosters, a new skin, as well as 3 high-tier premium vehicles available for 7 days. To claim the gift, create your own Armored Warfare account using the links in the description box below, and click on the gift link also listed below. The first link will lead you to the free bundle on my.game store that anyone can pick up, and the second link goes to a guide for setting up your account. You need an account to obviously claim the links and the bonuses. Basically, create the account, log into the website, use the bonus link to claim the bonuses, and get into your armored vehicle and start battling. Now, let's get back to talking about the Vigilante. Now, by the 1950s, the Americans really were struggling to provide their armored forces with adequate anti-aircraft capabilities. There was, of course, the famous M42 Duster with its twin Bofors 40mm cannons, but those were manual sighting only without any radar guidance and completely redundant in the modern Cold War era of fighting. A Duster variant with radar was considered but ultimately never adopted, mostly due to the fact that it was very expensive. Additionally, the American projects of the tracked AA platforms with guns had an additional enemy that was far more powerful than any Soviet airplane: the US military. During this era, anti-aircraft, or even aircraft in general that had guns, were completely regarded as obsolete and believed that guided missiles could be the next big thing, and the Vietnam War would prove that notion completely wrong. But that's a story that I could talk about another time. It's during this time that the Vigilante was introduced with the work of the weapon system beginning in 1956. It's worth noting that the Vigilante program did not consist of just one vehicle, but rather 2 different platforms. The Vigilante A was a towed version of the weapon system, and the Vigilante B was a self-propelled version of the system. But I will focus naturally on the B version, being that it's tracked and looks amazing. The project was undertaken by the Sperry Corporation with 3 prototypes made at some point during the late 1950s. The chassis was heavily modified as an M113 APC, on which a massive radar-controlled turret armed with a 6-barreled T250 37mm rotary cannon was installed. The vehicle had a crew of 3. The crew was protected by fairly thin aluminum armour similar to that of the M113 APC, which meant that this protection against small arms, but little else, was all it could really protect itself from. Mobility was generally comparable to the original M113 APC. Its Chrysler 75M 215 horsepower V8 gasoline engine provided enough power to move the 9.2-ton vehicle around at a fairly consistent speed. The suspension was also taken from the M113, but the vehicle was made longer and had a special feature where it could actually be locked to become rigid in order to better withstand recoil and create more accurate firepower into the air. And some recoil there definitely was. The 37mm 250 Gatling gun was capable of firing up to 3,000 high explosive rounds per minute from a 192 round drum, emptying in just under 4 seconds. Although a reduced rate of fire of 120 rounds per minute was available as well. Should the Vigilante have ever engaged soft or ground targets, it could also do quite a bit of damage. Unfortunately though, its depression and elevation was not quite suited for ground targets, being that it could not depress to the level of which it was in a ground or hull down position. The gun, although could spray the sky in 4 seconds full of lead, was really also quite useful in engaging armoured targets, but the ammunition really wasn't that effective though, due to the fact that the 37x219mm T60A shells, which by the way were made by modifying 40mm Bofors ammo, was only available in a high explosive configuration and therefore wasn't really able to pierce any armour of any soft-skinned or even lightly armoured vehicles. The muzzle velocity of these shells was around 914 meters a second or 3,000 feet per second. The gun fired in short bursts of 1 to 48 rounds. The gun was controlled by the T249 fire control system, which included the XM17 group, featuring pulse Doppler radar. By some accounts, it was fairly effective. The 3 prototype vehicles were tested until 1960, but with the focus shifting towards missiles and a lot of hopes being put into the Mauler program that ran in parallel with the Vigilante, cancellation was, of course, just a matter of time. The development ran until 1962, or so be it a little further than that, at which point it was just completely mothballed, only to resurface in the form of the Sperry DIVAD proposal in the late 1970s. One of the 3 prototypes survived and is currently displayed at the Fort Sill Museum in Oklahoma. The vehicle, although quite small and nimble, also had some problems mechanically. The fact that it was an M113 at the time, it was kind of left in the dark for any upgrade packages that could have been installed on it. The original chassis that was made was not followed through with the rest of the configuration designs with the M113 as it progressed through history through its development and design phase for this SPAAG. The cannon also was prone to actually overheating, and the system did not have adequate hydraulics to allow it to actually continue engaging targets for long periods of time. One of the other major concerns about this vehicle was its reloading time. It took almost half an hour to an hour to reload this weapon system, due to the fact that the configuration of the drum being on the side actually made it quite difficult for troops to try and get ammunition back inside of it. There are some unconfirmed sources, which I'm not too sure I believe too much in, that have said that the cannon that actually fires produces so much heat and shockwave that it actually affects the radar that is directly positioned behind it. This is why we see in some SPAAGs that the radar is offset away from the gun or pulled as far away from the gun area as possible to prevent interference to the radar system. The vehicle overall, of course, was completely mothballed and scrapped, but it would have been interesting to see how this weapon system could have been modified or upgraded to be a more viable option in the modern battlefield. Of course, there's always irony in any story of a vehicle that gets developed and left behind. The irony in today's story is the fact that after a decade of anti-aircraft research and nearly no investment or time or effort being put into rotary cannons or autocannons to engage aircraft threats, the old mothballed Dusters were dusted off and sent to Vietnam. Luckily for the Americans, their air superiority was practically uncontested, and these vulnerable machines were never really tasked with serious anti-aircraft protection duties. Instead, they were used as infantry support vehicles with their own twin 40mm guns being used basically as just a deadly infantry engagement against the Viet Cong, as they were against the Chinese 2 decades prior. Sad to say that if this vehicle was actually produced, it would never have actually engaged military aircraft anyway. More than likely, it would have just been something that would engage infantry from long distances in Vietnam. So maybe it was more practical to not spend so much more money continuing to develop this weapon system. So, there you have it. Another failed SPAAG that never really came to fruition. However, a really cool bit of kit. Lovely to see that 37mm cannon being placed on there, something that you don't really see on a, weapon system of this kind. But, as I said, it just makes no sense for it to be produced if it wasn't actually going to do what it was designed to do. I hope you enjoyed today's video, folks. I really do. I hope you're also staying safe and looking after yourselves during these really difficult times. Thank you again to Armored Warfare for sponsoring today's video and allowing me to showcase this vehicle in their game. If you do, again, want to go check out those links, go in the description box below, and maybe sometime we'll get some more footage playing this game and see how it goes. Thanks again, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. Check out some other links in the description box, including my Patreon if you wish to support my channel. And also, you're more than welcome to add me on Facebook, come chat on Discord, check out my merchandise store, all the other fancy links that are down there. Take care, everyone. All the best. Bye-bye.